show. Welcome. Again, thanks. Thank everybody for coming down on City Island. So we're going to wait till everybody takes their seats. We're going to have the pledge. Now we're going to do an intro about what we feel City Island is. Then we're going to introduce the officers of City Island. We're going to introduce the brass, the NYPD. We'll chop those names up, I can tell you already. And now I'm going to introduce the big guy. So, turn those phones off, because I will point you out. And we're going to be pretty strict because we're short on time, so we're going to get rolling. So I'm going to ask everybody to stand up, please. Raise the flag. Pledge of allegiance. And some of the abuse already, because I'm already hearing it. Some of the executive members were on me about wearing a suit and tie. So the commissioner already reprimanded me. So with that, I'm going to take the jacket off because it's boiling in here. I want to talk a little bit about City Island first and explain to the commissioner what it means to be a City Islander. Many folks here on City Island, Commissioner, were born on this island. I have neighbors directly next door to me. One was born 70 years ago in the house. The neighbor next to me, Mr. Hoffman, was born on Winter Street 83 years ago. We have a gentleman here, 91 years old. We have another lady here she's forever 68, but Virginia's here, raise your hand. She's here, we know she's here. Let's have a big hand for that. And people born on City Island, it's not that we're not proud to be from the Bronx, but we consider ourselves unique unto ourselves. And it's interesting because people that move on to the island, they're here a week and they already feel that same feeling of love and community. And we're a mile long by a half mile wide, about 4,500 people, give or take. And we all watch out for each other. But we have influences from off the island and some from within that affect us, that affects the city. And we feel that we're a unique type of place because one thing goes wrong, it can affect the whole island. So we really appreciate you coming down here today to hear some of the questions that we have. And again, I'll reiterate, many people, we ask for questions because of time. We ask you guys to send them in, and we got them all. Emails, write-ins, people walking up to us, the executive board, we all sat down. And we put the ones that we got the most of, and that's what we're going to put to the commissioner. But that doesn't mean all of your questions aren't going to get answered, because we have a new incoming commanding officer, and she's going to be so happy to help us with those, as well as the chief from the Bronx. So with that, let me talk about the unsung heroes of City Island, because they really do, the ones that come to the meetings. You know, if I get a little nervous, the last time I was on this stage was 1978. I was in the play Grease. I'm a little bit more nervous now than I was then, so bear with me. Some of the officers we have, I'm just going to ask them to briefly stand up. Fred Ramfiti. Fred, stand up. First Vice President, give him a hand. Barbara Galenzik, just coming off Lyme disease. She sees twice the amount of people. Janie, our recording secretary. John Doyle sends me emails at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning from the vampire. And Tom Smith, our treasurer. And the two guys at the end, who I love. Skip, you're a good man. Bob Beer? That's right, we're best friends. He's the 45th Precinct Community Council President, right? You're a big man. Tireless work. All right, now we're going to get on to the brass. Well, we'll save the big guy for last. The Assistant Chief, Larry McEwen. Big man. We need to be nice to him. And now, here's a guy, and let's hear it with applause. You know, if you don't like him, don't do anything, but I think otherwise. The outgoing CO, Inspector James McGowan. here for Inspector Green. He was good. Okay, now we have the new incoming, our new guy, who happens to be a beautiful lady. Her name is Captain, oh God, this is Danielle Reyes. We have the workhorse of the 4-5, the guy that gets all the beef. You know, he rarely gets the accolades. You know, when he was honored at the marina, where was it? Paul, where were you honored? He was over under the Barone. I had a beard down to the middle of my chest by the time they got to him. I was gone. Let's have a big hand for Lieutenant Paul Tremaine. Captain David Dent. Did I get that right, Captain? And Lieutenant Captain Malott, 4-5 strong. I'm sweating, so I'm going to take my jacket off for this. Thank you. Deputy Commissioner Steve Davis. All right, so people are wondering, about 20 years ago, I had the honor to meet the police commissioner, Bill Bratt. And when I first met him, my hair was about down to here, and I had a 5 o'clock shadow. And he looked me up and down, and very quietly leaned into my ear and said, "Get a haircut." Went right to Louis the Clip, and got that haircut. Everybody knows Louis the Clip? Got that haircut, got a haircut Friday for this thing. As I came to know him as a police commissioner, he only impressed me even more when I got to know him as a man. There haven't been many police commissioners in New York City. But you would get little argument when people would say the greatest police commissioner of the 20th century is on the fast track to be the greatest police commissioner of the 21st century. That man is Bill Bratt. You all can Google his name. The man is legend. He's already here, so I don't have to kiss his butt. This is true. This is what I feel. The man comes down here tirelessly every day, and he could be making a lot of money someplace else. He gives his time to this city because he loves this city. And when I met him, it was him, it was John Miller, who's the Deputy Police Commissioner of Counterterrorism, and the man who's no longer with us, Jack Maple. And I got the opportunity to sit with these guys at a lane, with Steve Davis, and I was like the little kid. You know, they were like the varsity, I was like the towel boy, and I would just take in things like a sponge. You know, when it was think times not to hear things, they would chase me outside. And it was an honor. It was an honor then, it's an honor now. And there's that old saying, you know, as good as this man is, there has to be someone behind him. And I'm going to ask his wife, Ricky Kleeman, to stand up right now. You know, you save the best for last. You can never go wrong. Now I'm going to call up the man who we've all been waiting for. Man, I'm proud to call a friend and proud to call the New York City Police Commissioner, Bill Bratt. Better late than never. State Senator Jeff Klein. How are you? So I'm going to give the commissioner the microphone. It's very hard to get out of my hands. He's going to say a couple of words, and then we're going to get on with the questions.
Good evening. Good evening. 330 years young, City Island. This is my first visit to the island, and I'm very happy to be here with you this evening. thank you all for coming out on the beautiful summer evening and spending time indoors with me, and an awful lot of the cops that work very hard to keep City Island safe and keep the city safer. Special thank you to the police officers who are here this evening, and many of our auxiliary police officers who are also here. Thank you for letting me tell your story, and it's a great story to tell. I want to thank Billy Stanton for the invitation and the opportunity to come out, talk with you a little bit about the department, what we're doing, where we're going. And I also want to certainly thank the Senator and the City Council member for their very busy schedules joining us here this evening. And certainly to thank the City Council member for support of the budget that we received this year. I've been in this business for a long time, here and other locations. I have never had a better budget to work with than the one that the City Council members and the Mayor approved for the New York City Police Department this year. For the first time in 15 years, every one of those 15 years, we lost police officers in this department. On 9/11, there were 41,000 police officers in the New York City Police Department. I took over back in January 2014, declined to 35,000. This year, for the first time in 15 years, we'll be increasing the size of the department by almost 1,300 police officers. Additionally, we have received authorization to hire 450 more civilians. Those civilians will replace police officers who are currently doing duties that can be done by a civilian. So that will give us another 450 police officers over the next year, so that by this time next year, we will have about 1,750 additional police officers to assign to the precincts of this city. And that's where the bulk of them are going to go. About 400 of those officers, however, are going to go to a full-time assignment, a counter-terrorism assignment. The world is changing, as we know. The issue of terrorism over the last year and a half has changed dramatically. The concern used to be Al-Qaeda. The principal concern here in the United States, here in New York City, now is ISIS. ISIS, which has an ability through social media to inspire individuals, lone wolves that we call them, to create acts of terror. Without ever going to Syria, without ever being trained, inspiring individuals to commit acts of terror. Working with the FBI very closely with the counterterrorism capacities of the NYPD, my predecessor Ray Kelly created a phenomenal counterterrorism operation after 9/11 from scratch, almost 1,000 officers. Well, to address the new threat, the lone wolf, the inspired individual who's being recruited on social media, we're going to increase that counterterrorism force by about 400 officers. They're all going to be highly trained, specially equipped, specially trained to safeguard facilities, specially equipped if we were to have an incident to go toward the danger with the right equipment to deal with the danger. The benefit of those 400 officers to each precinct in the city is going to be significant, because every day from every precinct in the city, on the day tour and the evening tour, we take a sector car out of every precinct and send many of them to Manhattan to staff our counterterrorism operations. Last week at the recruiting stations after the assault in Chattanooga. So what we will be able to do is no longer have to take the sector car out of the 4-5 every day, the sector car out of the 4-5 every evening. Instead, we will have a full-time force that can perform those duties. So every precinct around the city will benefit by having an extra sector car available in their precinct. That will also help us to address the chronic issue that you're concerned with on the island here, the availability of resources from the 4-5. Additionally, those approximately 1,700 additional officers will be staffing a new patrol plan the Chief of Department, Jim O'Neill, has designed, in which we are attempting to identify ways that in each precinct that officers will have up to 30% of their time available to do other than chase 911 calls. Time to spend in the community, networking with the community, going to meetings like this to meet you face to face, in addressing identified problems and concerns that you bring to the commanding officer's attention. There's a lot of changes that are going to be happening in the department. Also this year, 2015, we talk about as the year of technology. We are going to be spending several hundreds of millions of dollars of asset forfeiture funds. Money that District Attorney Cy Vance has won back from banks and other companies who are engaged in criminally related activity. These are the fines that they are paying, close to $1 billion overall. We in the NYPD are going to receive hundreds of millions of dollars of that money, as it all has to be used for criminal justice. So those funds this year are going to pay for the acquisition of 35,000 smartphones. Every New York City police officer will be equipped with a smartphone, custom-designed apps that will allow that officer to not have to go all the way back to the precinct station, make out reports, to search for information, to be able to stay in the field. 405 here on City Island, that will be critically important to you. So an officer, when he takes a report here on the island, now goes back to the precinct station house, they're gone for an hour, 2 hours to make that report. If you ever make it in the car on their smartphones, we're also putting tablets, portable tablets, into every police car. So we'll be able to basically support the smartphones with actual mini computers in the cars. Every one of our vehicles is now being equipped with GPS. So we will be able to see all the time where every one of our police cars are. So the patrol sergeant, the desk supervisor, the precinct captain, in your precinct, the 4-5, will be able to see at any time, are there no police vehicles on the island? The ability to assign resources based on what is happening right now. The technology we're requiring is state-of-the-art. We will be the lead police agency, not just in the United States, but in the world, with the technology available to us. Capital improvements, getting $250 million this year to build a new computerized property room. We lost many of our property clerk facilities in Sandy, and we are now going to have a state-of-the-art $250 million facility that will allow us to take out all of our precinct station houses, all of the old files, all of the old property that's sitting stuck in cell blocks, tying up space, and put it into a computerized facility, state-of-the-art. It will make it easier to store evidence, to retrieve evidence when we give it back to you, to store property, stolen property, so that you will have a better chance of recovering if something is stolen from you. $250 million in capital funds. Now, as it relates to your particular issue, let me speak to this and then I'll close, and I know Bill Stanton has listened from you a whole series of questions that he will ask, but let me speak to, I think, what is a significant concern to you. Certainly something I spent a lot of time talking to the city council member about, and that's the firing range on Rodman's Neck. We have received funding this year, in this year's budget, to design a new Rodman's Neck firing range. Funding that will allow us next year's budget, to seek between $100 and $150 million to finally modernize a range that looks about the same as it did back in 1940. Address your concerns about having that range next door. I know there was a hope that during the Bloomberg administration there was a proposal to build $1.5 billion new police academy over at College Point. Unfortunately, they only appropriated half the money. So what they built is a gorgeous facility that will open early this fall. State-of-the-art, unlike anything else in America, a phenomenal training facility, but it is all classrooms. The firing range, the indoor firing range, and the driving range that were also supposed to be built, they did not appropriate the $750 million to do that. And it's unlikely that the city will, in the foreseeable future, have the money to do that. So that leaves the other option of fixing up Rodman's Neck. Rodman's Neck can be fixed up based on our estimate between $100 to $150 million. What does that mean to you in terms of your quality of life? The idea that we cannot give up that facility. I'm sorry, but there's no place else to go in the city. It would cost so much that economically it would not be feasible with dollars available to us. But with that range, we estimate it to be done by about 2019, 2020. The new ranges would not be indoor, but they would be significantly enclosed, covered with state-of-the-art baffling and soundproofing that we estimate, based on the engineer studies, that 80% of the volume of noise would be eliminated with the berms, the way they would be designed, the way they would be situated on the island. It would also allow us to replace all buildings. They're all modular, and they would be replaced with modern modular buildings. It will also allow us to basically fix the island. The island was severely damaged during Sandy, and so we'll now be able to basically protect the island from future storms. We'll also be able to totally enclose our training village that's on the island, so a lot of the sound that comes out of that will also be contained. Under $150 million, something over the next 4 years, that will be state-of-the-art. It's the best option for the city. The preference on the island of all of you would be that the site be relocated, but unfortunately that opportunity has been lost. The money is not going to be there, and we desperately need a new training facility. Our officers train in horrible conditions. You experience some of those horrible conditions with the noise you experience, because none of those ranges is currently soundproof, none of them weatherproof. So our officers are trying to train in rain, snow, cold, and I think we owe it to them to provide first-class training facility, because that issue of firearm safety is the absolutely most critical training we give our police officers. They know how to use those weapons because we train them.
Our community and be a killer. You are a group. You are a group. You have killed a car girl. You have killed. CRP is your setup. Your community here has no idea what we are suffering with in our community. Pleasantville. Right now, you live in Pleasantville. This man here is a demon. His policies are broken with those demons. Shut up.
I brought my own entertainment for you, so welcome to my world. Jokes, that's the entertainment for this evening. Billy, if I can turn it back to you and we can the question. Thank you. Thank you, Ron, to make your introductory comment.
I think we only have one mic, so I'm going to ask the question and I'll hand it back to the commission. Well, he definitely scratched one of the questions off with the range and saved a lot of grief on my part. Drugs and crime. While we don't have, New York City's highest crime rate, we do have some crime. And given the fact, again, that we are unique, we are miles from the nearest community other than City Island. We are a closed community, we are a tight community. Everybody knows me, I know everybody, we grow up together. And we have our own homegrown bad eggs. And we have imported bad eggs. And bad eggs by meaning drug dealers. And if you think about it, if you break down the numbers, we only have a couple of hundred young people on City Island. 1 or 2 effective drug dealers can literally addict this island. And we have lost our fair share of young people on this island to drugs. By a sign of hands, how many people know someone that's passed away on City Island from drugs? That's a lot of hands. And it's very hard for the 4-5 to infiltrate because we all know each other. So I guess the question is, Commissioner, how do we help you help us stop this before it happens?
What Billy just said, how do we help you help us? It's a shared responsibility. One of the benefits of living in a small community, a community that has very few outsiders, is that you tend to be very aware of who's doing what in your street, your block, your neighborhood, your community. You can provide information that can help us. The problem with drugs is, unfortunately, one that's not unique to your island, not unique to the city, certainly not unique to the country. We're currently seeing several trends that we're very concerned with. As in Staten Island earlier today, Staten Island has the highest rate of heroin overdose and heroin deaths. That's their particular drug problem over there. We're dealing with a new drug problem, synthetic marijuana, K2, or spice as they call it. That's particularly afflicting northern Manhattan and edges of the Bronx. So we touch on northern Manhattan, so that each community in the city seems to have its own specific drug issue. Each community in this city can help itself, by helping itself, help the police department. One, information. Two, on our end, with that information, are things that we can do. The things that we can do usually involve arrest. Going beyond the arrest process is where we then need your help, making it quite clear to your district attorney, to the judges in this area, to the various others that this is an issue of concern and priority. So if we make an arrest, if we make a good arrest and have the right amount of evidence, that particularly for the drug dealers, that there is a penalty associated with that arrest, particularly the repeat offenders. I understand that the briefings I've had from the inspector and the captain dealing with here on this island are repeat offender drug sellers. So you need to make it very clear, as we attempt to do, to the prosecutors and to the judges, that when those individuals are in fact found guilty, you're looking for something very significant as they attempt to poison and destroy our community. As to those that are unfortunately afflicted with drug habits, drug problems, those who are buying, those who are in need, there are other ways to deal with that, certainly. Drug prevention programs that are effective, not a one-stop shop, but those that give the long-term failing treatment. Well, that requires a better response from the city and the various agencies within the city to provide that type of care and treatment. That's again where you can make your voice known certainly for your elected officials, city council members certainly, assemblymen at the state level. This is something that is not a problem that you can arrest your way out of. Arrest is appropriate for certain people, the drug dealer, not necessarily appropriate for the drug user, unless that drug user is involved in crime to support that habit, in which case we then have to deal with it, rather than the medical professionals that would normally be asked to deal with that problem. So as it relates to the item, that my understanding is that those that are dealing with drugs are known, that there are efforts made to, using existing police resources who know these characters, but also using the resources of our organized crime control bureau and narcotics officers that have the undercover capabilities to come in where the officers who normally not here because they're known, can't make the buy, can't make the case. We have that capability. And I think I can commit very easily to you that those continuing problems are something that we can effectively deal with you. It has to be done with you. Information to us, with the ability to also support us as we go before the district attorney and prosecutors to make cases against those individuals.
What about making cases against your own cop? Make cases against your own cop.
This is the game that you're going to see they'll play every 5 minutes, another one. Also finding us not one of the city island residents, these characters are not from your community. Welcome to my world. Director or Captain, you're pretty intimate with the issue out here. We're going to ask either one of you, outgoing or incoming, whoever wants it. Incoming, that basically an opportunity to kind of introduce yourself to the audience here.
My name is Danielle Rea. I'm a police manual officer in the 405 precinct, and I am very happy to be here. I look forward to working with everyone. I look forward to helping the community and hopefully changing some things, although the inspector was phenomenal at what he did. So I'm just going to try to follow in his footsteps, big shoes to fill, and again, I'm happy to be here.
Many of you were at the meeting last month where we discussed one of the big players here was locked up. He was violated by parole. He was recently sentenced, so he is incarcerated. I'm sure many of you know who he is. He was one of the big players out here. If anybody has information, as always, please give us information. We have people here that we can give it to. I have Inspector McCormack. He's from the Narcotics Bureau. All right, anything you get, give to us, we'll give it to him. We will have his people come and take action on it. Please, the more information we get on it, it's how we can act. So, thank you.
And again, they can only work as effectively as we help them. Many of you folks have come up to me, or confidentially, and I have passed that information on, and we are affecting change. We are locking up these bad guys, and you know what? City Island is better for it. The next question, which you pretty much answered, but I'll ask it out loud, is manpower. 405 does a phenomenal job. As many people know or may not know, the 405 precinct is one of the largest precincts in New York City. It covers a tremendous amount of real estate. Pelham Bay, Clark's Neck, City Island, Co-op City. On a midnight tour, Inspector, how many on average? 3 or 4 cars? 4 cars. So, City Island being so separated, is there any way where we can come up with a plan where City Island gets some better coverage? Because, and which will flow into the next hard question of traffic, especially during the summer months, it gets real hot and real hard to get onto the island, even if you have a light inside.
Relative to the staffing of 4-5, staffing in any precinct around the city, I've already indicated how over the next 6 months, as we staff up the 400 some odd officers that are going to the counterterrorism division, that precinct will pick up again an extra car, day tour and evening tour. That counterterrorism car on the morning watch in the early morning hours is staffed on overtime. We don't pull officers out of the precincts. So your issue from midnight to 8 won't be alleviated by having an additional car on the island during that period of time. What we are trying to do, however, is with those additional new officers, take a look at our staffing around the city, take a look at not only the crime issues where very frequently that's a priority where we assign our officers, but also issues to ensure that response time, for example, particularly in emergencies, particularly in the case of you here on the island where you have to travel such a distance to get here for emergencies and to get off the island again, that we're hoping to do a better job there through the GPS system that I described. That will allow the patrol supervisor, that will allow the duty supervisor, the lieutenant of the precinct, and our chief, any of the bosses here, to take a look at any given time and identify that we don't have anybody on the island, and to ensure that we try to move people, if that's occurring, back onto the island. It's a capability we don't currently have, because we know our cars are on assignment, we can't see them. So within the next 3 months, they will have the capacity. Sergeant in his car, on his tablet, duty supervisor in the precinct on his computer screen, borough chief on his iPhone will be able to see where are all the vehicles in borough, in the precinct. So that may help to alleviate somewhat the idea of not having extended periods of time where we don't have patrol personnel on the island. The idea of traffic that Billy raised, that coming in, took me quite a while getting in here tonight, think quite frankly, it was probably going to compound over the next couple of years as you build a new bridge. We'll be in a position to offer some assistance in the sense of additional traffic agents to help facilitate. But the reality is, you've lived in this island all your life. You live on an island with only one way in, one way out unless you're on a boat. And a lot of people live here. Population increases certainly in the warmer weather, as well as the livelihood of so many people on this island, those restaurants. Those restaurants attract thousands of additional people. So the reality of life on City Island, with all the benefits you have here, is traffic. And traffic, not just here in the island, but throughout the city, it's a mess. That's the reality of it. We're dealing with the issue. I live in Manhattan, so I deal with the traffic in Manhattan. Because every day we bring hundreds of thousands of additional cars onto that island. So I can't promise you relief on the traffic other than to ensure that we will have the capacity to have agents, particularly as the construction of the bridge goes on, or on the weekend. But last time I visited the edge of the island, I was literally coming into those pier and the two restaurants at the end of the island, even with 3 traffic agents working. It took me almost 15 minutes getting out of the parking lot, trying to get onto the street, to get onto the bridge, to get out of there. So I had a first-hand experience, just a brief visit to the edge of the island. So I can't promise you extensive relief on that the idea of the bridge, I'm assuming the bridge is designed to make sure that the existing bridge, which is probably in danger of near collapse, is in fact enhanced and improved. But the reality is you have 2 lanes in, 2 lanes out, and an emergency lane. The emergency lane is something that we will try to endeavor to keep open to ensure that people aren't in fact occupying that, to keep ambulances or our police cars getting in and out of here. Some things we can fix, some things we can work to alleviate. The traffic issue here is one that my understanding of it, that the old adage that we're trying to get a size 10 foot to a size 5 shoe. And that's been the reality of life on City Island for many, many years. And I don't see how you can fix it. The main street there, that you can't wind that main street anymore than it's currently. And unless you, basically, unfortunately, go through a recession with the restaurants on the track business, I don't see how you're going to keep people from coming here for lunch and dinner, and particularly on the weekends. It's part of one of the benefits of living here. It's one of the best restaurants in the city. It's one of the negatives of living here. You get some of the best restaurants in the city.
Well, we do accept, we happily accept the traffic, and I think you hit the nail on the head. We just need better traffic management. And we're happy. We have plenty of, lifelong City Islanders that could add their 2 cents and work with the traffic agents. Because we don't really want or need to take, police officers off from fighting crime as we do need traffic enforcement officers for management. One other question, and it's a suggestion and possible if we can get that done. We do have a lot of restaurants on City Island. We have big parking lots. And in order not to pull the manpower, paid details, working the parking lots. Now, the big stop there is they serve alcohol. And someone asked, they also serve alcohol in Yankee Stadium. We have paid details there too, I believe. And could there be a possible, and maybe working with Senator Fine and Councilman Vaca, if he stops looking at Blackberry soon. Hope you're looking at pictures. So, if we could do a carve-out of possibly getting, a paid detail in these parking lots, which would alleviate stress from the 4-5 and add an extra omnipresence of uniformed police officers. Is that something that could possibly be explored?
I'll give you potentially another option. I can't speak with any specificities of the paid detail system in the city as it's currently practiced. It is a very limited system that use paid detail offices in some of our sports facilities, adjacent to some of the major arenas. We use paid detail offices in some of the banks. We're willing to pay to have a police office in their lobbies. One of the things that you might consider doing with your restaurant consortium is potential of a modified bid business improvement district. Something that is used throughout the city. I'm not sure if it's ever been thought of on the island. Business improvement districts usually raise funds from businesses for purposes of cleaning, security, and lighting. So that in Manhattan, for example, Ryan Park, many other areas that have been reclaimed as a result of business improvement districts. You might look at the potential of a modified bid here, might then be in a position to hire detail officers, not so much for a particular establishment, but through the bid that would then deal with some of the prohibitions we have against environment and selling liquor. That part of the idea is that the department had a terrible history in the 60s and 70s with officers being paid off by a lot of the various licensed premises in the city. I come out of the city of Boston, where unfortunately every 5 or 6 years we have a major scandal. We have very large paid detail systems in Boston. And every 5 or 6 years, a major scandal of the cops getting paid under the table, cops getting paid by cash, cops looking the other way when an event occurs inside a licensed premise. So that's some of the concerns that we would have, that our officers would effectively attempt to operate in a uniform way. So it probably really would be worth a conversation that around this issue. The city council member would be more than happy to explore potential other opportunities that would allow additional officers here for that purpose, that the rest of the consortium possibly would be interested in helping to fund. So more than happy to explore some of those potential options.
All right, that's about the ending of the questions. I'd like to take a moment and just be a little selfish. And first, I want to thank my mom for coming, and Dr. James Fitzgerald, my wife. And today is another special day. That graduating from this school, I'm sure they're shocked, and the teachers that have passed away that told me are rolling over in their grave. But today, my first book has just come out, and my first novel. And I'd like to present the book. Ricky, if you could just come up here real quick. I'd like to present the first book that I received off the printing press to the commissioner. There was a lot of experiences on the police department, over the police department, to help me write this book. Now, please don't be fooled by the title. The commissioner has nothing to do with this title. It's called Badge of Evil, and I want to give you guys the first book. And, folks, let's have a big hand for the New York City Police Commissioner, Bill Pratt, the New York City Police Commissioner, his wife, Ricky. Oh, I'm sorry.
Again, I want to thank so many of you for coming up. It's a real pleasure to come out here, and I promise to wait another 20 years to come back again. The issues we've discussed tonight, I will look to follow up with the development and the year, as well as the police and on some of the issues that have been raised. There were more questions that were submitted, and Bill's going to give me those that my staff take a look at, and hopefully also address the precinct standard coming in. I want to thank you also for the support that you give the men and women of this department. They worked very hard to make this a much safer city. It's a city that, when I first came here in 1990, it was a very, very different place. Over these last 25 years, men and women of this department, with very strong support of good, hard-working people of the city, that partnership has made a phenomenal difference in the city of New York. A difference that has allowed funding this year in unprecedented ways of the needs of the department. Technology, equipment, facilities, training, all the things that are critical to an officer's safety, things that they're appreciative of. The more safe they feel, the better equipped they feel, the better trained they feel, and they're going to be better officers working with you in your community. So it is truly a partnership. It is a shared responsibility to keep you and your children and your community safe. We are committed to it, we have been, and we will continue to be. So thank you for your hospitality this evening. Thank you for your support.
You guys do a fabulous job. The current culture, a lot of people don't respect cops, they don't like cops. City Island, let's give a big hand how we love our cops. We love our cops. Thank you so much. folks, that's it. Thank you for coming. Stay safe. You guys are
I would like to monitor the Q&A. He's a person.
I'm good, how are you? What'd you think? Oh, that's why I always sit downstairs. Yeah. I actually, that's my favorite. This is the same as mine. Would you get me that paper? Thank you. Yeah, I gave the woman mine to put on her chair. Okay.